Listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Well, we're here, bullshit-free Colts fans. We are officially here. The Colts fall to the Tennessee Titans on Sunday, 25-16, and they are now officially winless at 0-3. And as painful as it is for me to say, remember, I went on record last week saying that if they lost that game, their season was over. And like I said, as painful as it is for me to say it, I still feel the exact same way. So that means that really the question today is, more so than just recapping and rehashing and recriminating what the fuck happened and how they lost in Tennessee, which we gotta admit, even if both teams were at full strength, that's always a possibility, right? Division rival, Tennessee's a good team, you're on the road. But the real question we gotta ask is, what happens now? Where do they go from here for the rest of this season? And what is the real no bullshit reason the Colts are 0-3 right now? I'm going to deep dive into both of those. And look, as Colts fans, I know you're emotional. I know you're going to be in your feelings. So what I'm going to tell you is probably going to throw you. It's probably going to shock you a little bit. But look, the reason that this is called the Bullshit Free Colts podcast is not just because I get on here and curse a lot and say funny shit. It's because it really is built to be a forum where we get beyond all the coach speak and the spin and the PR bullshit and the media members who, told you this team was going to win the Super Bowl a month ago, and now they're all telling you how they all told you it wasn't going to be any good. Excuse me. Anyway, we want to get past all that and really look at it for what it is without any veneer, without any sugarcoating, just 100% raw, unvarnished fucking truth. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do, let me be a good host and welcome you back, or if it's your first time, welcome you to the #1 uncensored NFL podcast in the world, the often imitated, never duplicated, one and only bullshit-free Colts podcast, where you're going to hear everything there is worth talking about our beloved Indianapolis Colts. But here, baby, you're going to get it with no coach speak, no spin, no PR, no political correctness, and especially, and most importantly, especially today, 100% without any fucking bullshit. I'm your host, Harkana Jala, at your motherfucking service as always. And look, let's jump right into this because, like I said, there's a lot to cover today. But before we do, very, very quickly, listen, if you're still listening right now, it's obvious you're a pimp. So I want you to do me a quick favor. Take your pimp ass finger and click that like button below right now so the algorithm can share this podcast far and wide with other cool ass, interesting, fire ass, real deal, Holyfield, blue-blooded Colts fans like yourself. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe so you get all the notifications when I send new ones of these out. If you dig what we're doing, you can help us out by clicking one of the 3 donate buttons below, sending us $20, $15, $10, $5, $1. Anything will help. And also, for you real deal Holyfield ass Colts fans, we now have, by popular demand, a VIP Patreon. You can join in the link below where you can get the shit that's not even fit to put on YouTube, all right? No, seriously. It's not that it's all that crazy. It's just that we go even more in depth and even more uncensored into the shit that the Colts fans we know love to talk about and think about. All right. So all that being said, let's get down to this thing. Or as I love to say, and based on your feedback, you love to hear me say, let's chop it the fuck up. So, this is, I'm not going to take a whole long time recapping this game because, hell, you saw it. But let me say this. I watched it 2 more times just this morning, and it's really important, I find, with these games to watch them after you know what happened. So after we've won or lost, whatever happened, it's really important to watch these games again because when you're detached from your emotions of the outcome and from watching it live, you can really zoom in and see what really happened. Now, this game, as crazy as it sounds, it really came down to 2 things. The reason they lost, it wasn't because of Carson Wentz's feed, as I hear people talking about today. Really, it came down to 2 things. They couldn't score TDs twice in the red zone. That ain't nothing new this season, right? And they had blown coverage in the secondary that led to 14 points on 2 easy-ass walk-in touchdowns for the Tysons. That 14 points was the difference, okay? And that also is nothing new, right? The secondary has looked like fucking trash this whole season so far. It really just came down to that. I went back and forth. I mean, not in a cool way, in a cool way with JMV on the radio today. Because he was like, well, Carson Wentz was awful. And I'm telling you, his stats may not look great. And he sure as hell was a fucking statue out there. But I went back and watched the game twice. Matter of fact, I watched every play he made twice to see for myself. Because originally, I thought, you know what? Maybe Carson is missing guys. Maybe he's not seeing them. Maybe he's not able to go through his progressions quickly enough. And he's missing guys that are open, and that's what the problem is. I went back and looked. Regardless of the stats don't tell the whole story. He had a bunch of fucking throwaways and throwing the ball into the dirt and throwing it out of bounds and what have you, because motherfuckers were breathing down his neck in the backfield, within 2 seconds half the time. But he played fine. He played well enough for them to win, even on 2 busted up ankles. The real reason just came down to the fact that they couldn't score. 2 times they got in the red zone, they came away with field goals instead of touchdowns. Now, one of those times was Carson Wentz's fault. He missed Michael Pittman Jr. He wasn't wide open in the end zone. He was open, though. And he missed him by a couple of inches. That, no doubt, was the problem. Now, unfortunately, after that, he hit Pascal perfectly in a tight window right on the goal line. That would have been a touchdown, but Pascal dropped the fucking ball. So, again, it's not all Wentz. They still could have scored on that drive, and he made up for that missed pass to Pittman on the very next play. But the normally sure-handed, reliable as fuck, clutch as fuck, Zach Pascal just dropped that one. And that, along with those 2 things I just talked about, that was a microcosm of why they lost yesterday as well. Because the other thing was, of course, no pass rush. And like I said, Wentz barely being able to walk, while the O-line still looked like a fucking sieve. Guys coming through it like roaches trying to get to cheese. But then all the other little reason that losing teams lose. Drop touchdowns, dumb penalties and mistakes. You're fucking roughing the punt, roughing the kicker penalty when you'd gotten them off the field, and that ends up turning into what? Well, actually, that didn't turn into points because we got a turnover, but it used up more time, took away time from the Colts offense that could have been out there scoring. You get what I'm saying? Time that they could have used at the end of the game to possibly come back and win it. So all those little things led to the loss. But the crazy thing is, as injured as the Colts were, and they were they were nowhere near. They were like a mass unit. Might be dating myself a little bit with that reference, but they were in trouble yesterday. They were nowhere near full strength. And yet, they were right there with the Titans. Couple of mistakes here and there, and they could have won that game very easily. But, that's all it really came down to in a game that, like I said earlier, hell, you could have lost it anyway, even if both teams are up to speed, both teams are healthy. Tennessee's a tough team, a very good team. They got a quarterback that's playing really well. They got the most productive running back in the league. Playing at home, that's one you could lose anyway. They lost it. It is what it is. They lost 3 games in a row to 3 very good teams. The first 2 teams, probably 2 of the best teams in the league, certainly in the case of the Rams. And the Colts didn't play very well in all 3 of them. So you can't really, how the fuck can you really be surprised that they're 0-3? The reason people are surprised is because we're so used to these cliche narratives and we buy into them because we hear them repeated over and over again. So people are like, oh, fuck, they're 0-3 because we believe the narrative put forth that any team that's 0-3 is because they're a terrible fucking trash ass team. Just like people start, making Super Bowl plans for any team that's 3-0. Just so I guess you're telling me you think the Carolina Panthers are Super Bowl contenders, huh? Yeah, okay. All of that cliched coach speak bullshit that's repeated over and over and over again becomes something that basically becomes a trope that people just repeat as if it's true, and if it's a really ironclad reality, when in fact it's just that. It's just something people say all the time. The truth is, you can be a really good team and be 0-3 based on other factors. The Kansas City Chiefs are 1-2. Had some crazy shit happen to them. It is what it is. Remember, people were writing them off at one point last year too, just like they were writing off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers halfway through. Doesn't mean they're bad. Sometimes shit just happens. Just like I said, if you believe Carolina's a fucking, surefire playoff team, then I got some beautiful condos in Afghanistan I want to sell you. I'll give you a good price on them. You throw them on Airbnb. Tourists will love them. You can't lose. Look, you want to know the real no bullshit reason the Colts are sitting at 0-3 today? Well, the real reason is not one that fans really like to acknowledge, because especially when your team, when your team is 3-0, you point out all the shit that's great about him. Oh, we got this guy and this rookie's going to be this, and, Sam Darnold is, really the second coming of Dan Marino. The Jets just didn't see it, and blah, 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 right? And when your team is fucking 0-3 and you didn't expect it and you don't want it to be so, what we really want to do is point to the exact reason, the exact person to blame. But the real truth is, the reason the Colts are sitting at 0-3 right now is not because they're a trash team, like people are saying. It's not because Carson Wentz is a fucking bum, overrated bum. It's not because Frank Reich is a piece of shit coach who could barely coach high school. It's not because Chris Ballard has suddenly, become a GM who should be run out of town. Or all the guys who are 3-time All-Pros are suddenly bums, overpaid bums. And our offensive line that was the best in the league is now the worst in the league. And every rookie's trash and every pick's a bust, et cetera, et cetera. And the play calling is fucking terrible through and through, and the schemes are all wrong, et cetera. It's not any of those things. The truth is, just like an old movie my kids used to watch, it's a series of unfortunate events. The truth is, the reason the Colts are sitting there 0-3 right now is a conglomeration of little parts of all of those things that have all come together at the exact fucking wrong time. Sometimes fate just fucks you up. Sometimes shit just happens all at the wrong time, at the same time, and at the worst time. Like my son said, we were talking about the game yesterday, and he said, Dad, maybe it's just not our year, and here's what's really fucked up about it. I think that's how it's shaping up. It's just not our year. Just too much shit is all going wrong at the same time. And maybe that'll continue, and maybe it'll turn around and eventually, straighten itself out. It's just that my guess is it's going to be too late to really salvage this season, meaning get to the playoffs and be able to make some noise. I hope not, but that's my guess. But let's really break down what all this little shit is. The first thing, man, fans hate to hear this. Because, you're making excuses. No fucking excuses. Well, no. Sometimes it's just reasons, homie. It's just a reason. And it's just a true reason. Now, it doesn't mean any fucking thing because nobody cares, right? You're either winning or you're losing as far as the fans are concerned. Like, we're not, you don't get any fucking banner for, they didn't give a banner to the Chiefs and be like, well, y'all were the best team, but, you lost both your tackles and your all-world quarterback fucked his toe up. So instead of winning the Super Bowl, you lost. So we give you a banner for that. There's no shit like that, right? The fact is, the Kansas City Chiefs should have won the Super Bowl last year. But they had the fucking injuries. Like, you can call it excuses, but you can't deny that's probably the main reason they lost. Look, everybody outside of Milwaukee realizes, right, that the reason the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA championship is, A, Giannis balled his ass off, but probably more so than that, because Anthony Davis got injured out in the Los Angeles and couldn't play, and because Kyrie Irving got injured and couldn't play, and then James Harden got injured and was a shell of himself. He was playing like Carson Wentz was yesterday, a shell of himself. And, you know, fucking KD damn near beat him by himself with the Brooklyn Nets. But, I mean, the shit came together for them, and they took advantage of it. Okay, cool. But the truth is, they weren't the best team. Shit happened outside of your control. And you can only, control what you can control, right? So, I mean, the truth is, one of the biggest reasons the Colts are sitting at 0-3 is they fucking got massive, fucking ridiculous amounts of injuries to their best players, not the fucking special teams gunner. They had Wentz. This guy had a fucking foot surgery. 3 or 4 weeks before the season or some shit like that. 4 weeks before the season started. So he got like 2 practices in. Nelson had the same fucking injury the day after, in the same year, the same injury, and had to have the same fucking surgery. I mean, that's crazy. And then Darius Leonard, all pro bowler, one of the best linebackers in the league, no cap. He's not perfect, but he's one of the best in the league. He gets injured, and he's still clearly hobbled. Rhodes suddenly fucking gets injured, has a calf muscle. He can't even play the first 2 games. T.Y. gets injured on a goddamn airplane. He didn't touch a football the whole preseason. He's on the airplane flying back from the last preseason game, and and I guess a disc. He goes on IR. He hadn't touched the football. Ryan Kelly had an injury. You can look at him and see he's not right. Braden Smith plays 1 fucking game, fucks up his foot. He's been out the last 2 games. Eric Fisher, had an Achilles? He had to rehab from that. Missed the first game. Isn't completely back. You can see that. You had Campbell miss a game. Kwity Paye pulled a hamstring, remember, in the first game or some shit? And then he left the game yesterday. Again, man, these are not dudes on the practice squad. These are like your top players. So when that happens, I don't give a fuck what team you are. It's going to have an impact. You're probably going to lose some games. This is the NFL, where almost every team is pretty even anyway. So if one team is playing with, if you took one team and said, hey, you guys play with no shoes on, you think they're going to be the same team? You think the LA Rams with no shoes on are still going to be as great as they look? Come on. So whether you like to hear it or not, it has a serious impact, particularly on this second thing, okay? No real time for these guys to gel together because of the injuries and all that shit. COVID. These motherfuckers barely practiced with each other and had any time to really get on the same page during the offseason, during training camp. Wentz hadn't thrown a fucking pass to a single one of his new receivers on a brand new team in competition until the first pass he threw in game 1 of the season. The starting O-line still hasn't played together. You get what I'm saying? The fucking secondary, the only guy back there that's been healthy is Rock Ya-Sin, who, by the way, I just go ahead and throw it in here. Through 3 games, Rock Ya-Sin has been solid as fuck. made a play yesterday. He's actually looking like, I was ready to label this guy a bust if it didn't happen this year. It's looking like it's happening this year, and that's great. But TJ Carey was hurt. Xavier Rhodes was out. That secondary hasn't even played together. Kari Willis has been injured, starting strong safety. I think he went out for a while yesterday. Man, this shit is real. Toure missed a game already. Paris Campbell, only 3 games in, he's already missed a game. So there's no real time for these guys to get on the same page and gel together, get into a groove as a team. Okay, on top of that, you got a brand new QB to this new team. Take some time for the offensive line to grasp his cadence, for the offensive line to figure out how he moves in the pocket, how do we need to feel where he's going, anticipate where he's going. For him and the receivers to get on the same page. Look, when T.Y. comes back, if Wentz is still healthy enough to play, they still got to get on the same page. You feel me? Now, what's the next thing? No pass rush from the front 4. This is a big fucking problem. This is a big fucking problem. And if you thought that this was all going to be me, oh, you're giving these guys a way out and not blame. No, I'm holding them accountable. No pass rush from the front 4 is a big fucking problem for a lot of reasons. For one, it makes Eberflus's cover 2 scheme that is purposefully stocked with corners who are physical and great tacklers, but generally lack speed. It makes that cover 2 scheme suspect as fuck. And you've seen that. You've seen busted coverages and guys running free all over the... Look, that's what's going to happen if you don't have consistent, disruptive pass rush from the front 4. That's the way that scheme is designed to run. It's designed to say, hey, we're going to keep everything in front of us. They might be able to complete passes in front of us and in the middle of the field, but the idea is the front 4 is disruptive enough so that the quarterback doesn't have time to sit back there and find all these guys running open in these big gaps in our zone, and the pass rush will move him off his spot and make him make mistakes, and then we can take advantage, etc. When you don't get that rush from the front 4, man, oh man, you're gonna be exposed back there. Now, add to that the fact that you've got some bad fucking technique in that secondary. I mean, again, I'm not saying I know more than these football guys, but I am saying I've been watching for 3 weeks, and I've heard Rick Venturi and other people talk about this. Football people. These motherfuckers, they get in man-to-man, and they never jam the fucking receivers. Case in point, the fucking easy-ass touchdown that Chester... I was only on the Colts team for years because I was T.Y.'s best friend, Rogers, okay? That TD pass that he caught that really hurt, that ended up being some of the deciding points of the game, easy as fuck, right in front of Kenny Moore, is because Kenny didn't touch the fucking guy off the line of scrimmage. He just ran right past Kenny and turned right into his, break, and fucking Tannehill threw him the ball, and nice, easy touchdown. Based on the way the pattern was running and everything, Kenny Moore had never had a chance to disrupt it once he got off the line free. But if he jammed him, which he could have easily done, and disrupted the rhythm of it and all of that, and made him have to run his route differently, maybe you don't get that. You feel me? At the very least, you can't just have motherfuckers running free doing whatever they want to do. That's the whole point of the fucking DBs being back there. Not to mention, I mean, the talent back there in the secondary has not been stellar. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Now, speaking of the no pass rush, it's time to just go ahead and admit that Tyquan Lewis, Kamoko Toure, and Ben Bannigue are basically just guys. They're just guys. I think Tyquan Lewis is a good, solid starter. good solid starter, excellent rotational guy. Toure, I mean, we saw flash from him for a few games, looked like he was going to turn out. Since then, whatever the reason it is, it's fucking injury, whatever it is. I mean, I watched him all day yesterday, and keep in mind, the Tennessee Titans do not have a great offensive line, okay? They have a, good offensive line. They were missing some guys, had some guys hurt, but not great. It can be suspect, especially the tackles. The tackles are the weakness of their offensive line. And these guys, I watched Tannehill back there just sitting for 3, 4, 5 seconds sometimes looking. And our guys just swallowed up, being held right in place by the Titans' average at best offensive line and below average tackles. Once Pay went out, really nothing there. You get plenty of push and disruption up in the middle. Grover Stewart and especially Defoe Buckner are doing their thing back there. But the tackles, man, other than Pay, who looks good, but is now hampered with a hamstring, right? Motherfuckers just ain't getting it done. Take this stat and put it in your pipe and smoke it. DeForest Buckner, through 3 games, has 5 quarterback hits. The rest of the defensive line has 4 quarterback hits through 3 games. Not fucking sacks, hits. Now, what else needs to be said about that? Now, what else? Well, we don't have a wide receiver, a number 1 wide receiver, to stretch and stress the defense. Keep them honest. Make them worry about being taken over the top. T.Y. hasn't even played yet. If he even is still that guy. But one thing's for certain, he's the best possibility of being that guy on the Colts team. Because Paris Campbell, 3 years in, he's supposed to have all this speed, okay, but he's constantly hurt, and he doesn't fucking flash even when he plays. He had one game against who? Sad-ass Jacksonville last year that they lost in, where he had 100 yards, 115 yards, whatever it was. But other than that, even when he does play, he doesn't flash. This motherfucker disappears. Where is he? He's looking like a bust pick, especially with DK Metcalf sitting there available when they took him. I don't care what you say. That was a big miss. And that brings us to the next reason that the Colts are sitting here 0-3. Y'all know I've been a big fan of Big Dick Ballard for good reason. He's been making some great picks, some great trades, etc. But going into year 5 and year 4 between he and Reich, see, motherfuckers like Dan Dockich, for example, like to talk about, these guys, I mean, they don't have a winning record. Well, that first season that Ballard was here when he still had, He Who Shall Remain Nameless, Chuck Strong, coaching the team. I mean, I don't really count that because that was with the fucking bottom of the barrel piece of shit roster that Grigson left him. He was just like, okay, this is what I inherited. Cool. Andrew Luck didn't play. Remember, Andrew Luck was hurt, ended up hurt for the whole season, didn't come back. So you're stuck with that piece of shit roster and Jacoby Brissett being forced into playing as your starting quarterback for that season. So they went 4-12 that year. I don't really count that. The 3 years he's been here with Reich, they're 29-19. They got 2 11-5 seasons that they went to the playoff, 1 playoff win, and then they had the 7-9 season where again Andrew Luck just walks out on him in the 4th preseason game and quits. And again, you end up stuck with Jacoby Brissett again. And they went 7-9. Again, I've been a big Ballard supporter, not because I just like the guy or some shit. I don't know him, but because he's had some great trades. He's had some great picks. He's had some misses, but he's done a great job overall. However, going into year 4, here's what I'm seeing. One of the reasons they're 0-3 this year is because Ballard's philosophy, he's so hard line, bordering on stubborn about it. And anytime somebody's rigid and hard line about a philosophy like that, it creates blind spots. And his hard line philosophy and lack of flexibility about it has created some blind spots that have hurt him and led to mistakes. Remember, this is his first time as a GM, by the way. So you got to know he's going to make some mistakes. He's still learning how to be a GM. He's made some great picks and trades and signings. But, you know, he's had some big misses too. And his formula on pass rushers and defensive backs, cornerbacks specifically, is off. Something's off there. Look at some of the fucking big misses he's made there. I mean, we're in year 4. This is the fourth draft he's had? Or the fifth draft, but the fourth draft with his guys, his team and everything. I mean, he missed on Quincy Wilson in the second round, Malik Hooker, top 15 in the first round. They missed on Terrell Basham. Clearly, they missed on Ben Bannigue. It's looking like they missed on Teray. His pass rushers now, Kwity Paye. I think that's the first big hit that he's probably had, but that remains to be seen. But he kind of went outside of his formula on Paye, believe it or not. We'll talk about that later. But, I mean, it hasn't been good. Ballard has got to learn to take, he's got to take some swings to get some impact players in trades or free agency at the critical game-changing positions. You got to, look, we all know you're going to have to overpay in free agency. That's kind of the name of the game. And I'm not saying go out and, you know, fucking pay guys like Bud Dupree at $20 million or whatever, guys who, you know, were just okay at their I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying you got to take some swings to get some impact players. In pass rush, a shutdown cornerback, big-time wide receiver, quarterback, they took a shot this year. You got to do it because you don't have time in the NFL to wait for those guys to fall. They got to be there in the draft. Then they got to be there when you pick in the draft. And then you got to develop them. You can't do all of that. Wait to be able to do all of that at those key positions in the draft so you can get your roster perfect before you say, okay, now we're ready to compete. Because before you do all that, even if you can get them in the draft, look, guys will leave, guys get hurt, they fucking retire, etc. Before you can get all those guys drafted, developed, and all lined up on the field at once. The NFL is the ultimate this year league. There's no way around that. Yes, you got to be thinking long term, but as we've seen here, you talking about long term, and then you're fucking once in a generation quarterback and just quit tomorrow because he has a calf injury. You see what I'm saying? Your left tackle can be like, I'm retiring. I'm young, but I'm retiring. I'm gonna go do something else. This is the ultimate this year league. You got to be going for it. Whenever you have a shot, you think you have a shot, like you got to go for it because you don't know what the fuck might happen next year. Another big problem, I think, with Ballard, over focus on character guys, quote unquote, which leads to a great locker room full of awesome men with good talent who are fucking left sitting on the couch at home watching flawed dudes with elite talent win Super Bowls. You feel me? I don't need your guys to raise my fucking sons for me, dude. I got that handled. I don't need them to be role models. I need motherfuckers that can dominate on the field on Sundays. DK Metcalf should be a Colt dominating and catching touchdowns from Carson Wentz right now. Should have been catching them from Phillip Rivers last year. He was available. Okay, he was available for great value based on his potential and his upside, and at a position of extreme need. In the second round, they'd already made a couple of picks. Here's a guy with massive upside, a huge ceiling, and you pass on him. Okay, you take Paris Campbell, how's that worked out? Like 3 years in, 4 years in, 3 years in, Dude's played, 9 games out of 30-something and hasn't done shit in any of the 9 except one. That, in my opinion, is the biggest miss of the Ballard era. Now, finally, you guys knew this was coming, right? Yeah, this is a little longer one because, it is what it is. Frank Reich. Look, you guys know I like Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is a sensational offensive football mind, but he may not be a good fit to be a great head coach. And that's what we need. Not a good head coach. You're going to win a Super Bowl. We need a great head coach. Here's the thing with Reich, man. I just don't think he's demanding and tough enough and ruthless enough to be a great head coach. Look, this is a bottom line business. This is like sales. This is not like a fucking, this is not like a fucking self-esteem meeting, what do they call them? A support group where, we want to make sure everybody feels great and feels good about themselves and knows I love them and all that bullshit. Man, this shit has got to be ran like a sales floor, man. Like my dude Alec Baldwin in fucking Glengarry Glen Ross. And if you haven't seen that masterpiece classic of a movie, go watch it tonight. Nice guy, who cares? Good father, fuck you. Go home and play with your kids. If you can't produce, hit the fucking bricks, pal, because you are going out. I couldn't help it. I had to do my Alec Baldwin impression there. The point is, look, that's how you have to run a football team if you want to win big, win the prize, the trophy. I get no feeling that any of the players are scared of fucking up and what the consequences would be from Frank. That he'll bench their ass, demote them, or cut their asses. Again, Frank's a first-time head coach. Remember, again, we got it here, a first-time head coach and a first-time GM. Frank's never been a head coach at any level. So again, he's still learning, and we're still learning whether he has what it takes or not. I don't think he's able to really process all the decisions necessary as a head coach while also calling the plays. You know what? That leads to him being okay at both instead of great at either one. I think he might be a fantastic play caller if that's all he had to do. But look, man, like everything in life, you got to give something up to move up, Frank. That's how it works, dude. Help design the plays and the concepts and the game plan, and then hand it over and trust Marcus Brady to call him. Or step down to fucking OC and let somebody else be the head coach if you want to call the play. You can't be the CEO and be trying to mop the floors too, bro. You got to level up, homie. You got to level up. The other thing, I think Frank forgets, man, there's 3 years of tape on your plays and your tendencies and all that shit that was revolutionary 3 years ago when you were out there balling with Andrew Luck, and you had Andrew Luck doing quick pass shit, unlike what was on tape before where he would be back there, trying to hit the big play. 3 years of tape on that, man. Your shit is stale and predictable now. Stale and predictable. They know what you're going to do. And so now a lot of your play calls are not even logical or don't make sense. Like Taylor's at 6.4 yards per carry yesterday, and he's not even on the field during the final drive. Here's another thing, man. Right now, Taylor and Hines are without a doubt your two best offensive players. Use them. Put them on the field together. Don't be telling, we only do a one-back set. Nobody, fuck that. Put them on the field together. Think outside the box. God forbid, give the defense something they haven't seen before, something they're like, hey, what's going on here? Surprise them. Think outside the box, dude. That's why Belichick, along with some cheating, that's why Belichick has always been superior to almost every other head coach, and he has the 6 rings to prove it. He's like water. He has no pattern that he's married to. He's formless. Some of y'all that understand Asian philosophy, y'all with me. He's formless like water. He's not committed to any shape. He takes whatever shape. He does whatever he needs to do to give himself the best advantage. His team becomes whatever team they need to be based on his players' strengths. Trust me, Tom Brady's a great QB, but he does not have those 6 or 7 rings, however many he has, without being on Belichick's teams. Sorry. That's real talk. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tom. I'm just keeping it real there. His Tampa Bay win means nothing to me. That team was fucking stacked before he got there. It was only missing a QB. That was like KD going to the Warriors, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Okay, big deal. And they probably wouldn't have won if Kansas City hadn't have been injured. I'm just telling you. Belichick is the guy, and that's why. Not so much that he's smarter than everybody. He's formless. He's formless. And you put all of that shit together, along with, some bad breaks, and then also playing 3 very good teams, 2 of them, probably 2 of the best teams in the league. And what you get is 0-3. It is what it is. Now, all that being said, what's that mean for the rest of the season? What's the rest of the season going to look like? Well, at this point, I can tell you what the Colts should do. All right? I can tell you what they should do, but they're not going to do it. So I'm going to save that for another video. I'll save that for a future video. Maybe I'll do that video and put it in the Patreon. But here's what I think is going to happen. Real talk. Real talk. Even though they're 0-3, even though they've looked terrible at times, the O-line, based on everything I just told you, I'm telling you, I looked at it unemotionally. They still have a good roster if they can get it all healthy, and once they achieve cohesion, playing together. You can't just you can get 6 great instrumentalists, 6 great musicians. You just throw them in a room and say, hey, you guys make a masterpiece. It doesn't work like that. They got to play together. That's why bands practice. You feel me? Once they're all relatively healthy and they get playing time together so they can build that cohesion and start to gel, what you're going to see is they're going to suddenly start looking better than all the so-called fans who are jumping ship right now ever thought they could look this year. And they're probably going to, if they can get relatively healthy so everybody can play together, by week 10, they might be looking like the real deal. I would not be surprised at all. At the very least, they're going to be looking like a very good team again. They could be looking like a real contender. Unfortunately, it probably won't be enough to get them into the playoffs unless they get some serious help. Some other teams collapsing. Maybe fucking Tennessee has some major injuries. You think Tennessee would have beat them if... You think Tennessee would have beat the Colts if... just one difference. Let's say you flip-flop the injury situation between Wentz and Tannehill. If Tannehill had the 2 ankles Wentz had yesterday, you think they would have beat Indianapolis? In spite of everything else, the Colts would have won because Tannehill kept 3 of their drives alive with that bootleg, which by now the Colts, they've seen it on tape 100,000 times. I don't know why Flus can't get these guys to anticipate it, but okay, whatever. Point is, he doesn't make those runs. Those scores probably don't happen. So, they get it all together, and have some help from some other teams. The AFC South's not going anywhere. The only team they really got to worry about in the AFC South is Tennessee. So they could get some help and get into the playoffs. Okay? I don't think it's all going to come together for them. But if they do get some help, they get healthy, they get to peaking, get their confidence back, and they sneak in the playoffs, they could make some fucking noise. They could make some noise, and you can book that shit. You can come back and tell me I'm crazy if it goes the other way at the end of the season, but I'm going on record with saying if they can get healthy and get some time playing together, I'm telling you they can still be a formidable team this year and make some noise in the playoffs if they can get there. But I've talked to you. I've broken down a lot today because, again, at 0-3 in the situation they're in, there's a lot to talk about, a lot we had to look at. I'm really interested to hear you guys' thoughts on the game yesterday, on why they're 0-3, the reasons I gave you. You think they're on? Did I miss anything? You think anything I said is bullshit? Let me know in the comments below. I welcome all your thoughts. I love especially hearing from my diehards and day ones, guys and ladies who watch and listen every week. Y'all are really awesome. You have some great, really thought-provoking, well-thought-out analysis and some funny shit, too. So I welcome hearing from you as long as you don't post any fanboy bullshit down there. I am going to sign off now and read your comments. Let me know. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, donate. Join the Patreon if you'd like. And I'll say to you the same thing I say to every Colts player, coach, front office who watches and listens, because I know some of them do because they get at me. We're 0-3, but fuck it. Fuck it. We were 1-5 and made the playoffs a few years ago. So let's control what we can control. Let's get our shit together. Let's play our hearts out. And let's go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace. And win another fucking Lombardi.